podcast. My name is Caleb,
And my name is Greg.
and we're going to talk to you about your favorite video games. So grab a pint of your favorite drink, find a nice comfy chair, and throw on your power glove as we dive into this.
Thanos?
The Nintendo Power
The
Glove.
oh my okay. You pulled one out of my depth of knowledge.
Yeah, you never heard of the Nintendo Power Glove?
It doesn't ring a bell off the top of my head, no.
It's the NES controller that's on a glove.
Oh.
And it was ridiculously stupid. And it always has been. It came out in the 80s and it was stupid back then too.
For every Nintendo Wii or Nintendo Switch, there's like 7 or 8 Power Gloves and Virtual Boys in Nintendo's repertoire.
Oh yeah.
Hey, you gotta swing at some bad pitches to hit a home run, I guess, is the analogy I'm going for.
Yeah, you really do. And like in theory, I get what they were doing with it. It is kind of cool to have like almost like a little gauntlet that you can like type on, like in those movies or something where little screens on your arm. But it's not a screen, it's just a shitty controller.
Just bad controller.
Yeah.
Huh. Caleb, how have you been this week?
I've been pretty good. I've been pretty good.
I know you're out of town for the weekend.
I was, yeah.
Yeah, nice. I headed up that way, and you got right out of Dodge.
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
I knew you were coming, and so I just wanted to leave.
Yeah. So I've been racking my brain, and I'm trying to remember. Did I take the first topic last week? I think I did, right?
I don't know. You're welcome to take it again if you want.
I'm gonna have to defer to you because I'm thinking. I think first week I handed it off to you, so I think we're on an odd number episode is yours and an even is mine. So Caleb,
All right.
what do you got for me this week?
So my first game that I'm bringing to the table today is This Is the Police.
I have played this one.
Yeah, that's not a game. I'm just announcing that. Greg, you are
No.
under arrest.
Hey, you have to. If you're the cops, you have to tell me if you're undercover, or else it's entrapment.
Yeah. So I've been playing a lot of This Is the Police. I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot. I was out of town, so I didn't get to play a ton of it. Haven't gotten super far in the game, but I've tried to make up my time now that I've been back. And it's pretty good. First off, I just want to say I've never played a game like it, like that kind of gameplay where it's managing a team and then sending them out to do a mission and then pretty much just waiting for them to come back and sending out others, and that whole thing I've never really dabbled in.
Yeah, it's almost like dispatch management.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And it's like I almost wonder if you can compare it to like a sports management game. But I haven't played a lot of those either. But like it's a lot of managing your team and like firing people when the need arises or hiring and like a lot like a sports game. When you find a cop on the market that's better than a cop you have, you want to get rid of that cop. But unlike a sports game, you can't just fire him for no reason. So it revolves around like using mafia to do hits on your cops and like sending them to their deaths and stuff.
Yeah, there's a very like kind of corruption slant to this game, right? If I remember
Yeah.
correct.
Oh yeah. And from what I've read, and this is the thing, I would have put a spoiler before saying that, but from what I've read, the corruption stuff is unavoidable because I made a choice to work with the mafia, and then I immediately looked it up and was like, is this something that I shouldn't have done? And it turns out that no matter what you pick, it all kind of ends up the same way.
Yeah.
So
And it's kind of one of those like, oh, here's your morality of the working with the mafia, but you also kind of have to do it if you don't want to get like handcuffed into really struggling down the line.
yeah, yeah. But the game's really fun. I love the gameplay. I don't know what it is about it. It's just very fun to me. And the fact that like all of the music is like jazzy, like 50s sounding songs or 40s, I guess. I love it. I love it. And it's the whole like way the game works. So you send out these cops on dispatch missions, right? And each time a mission shows up, you have to look at it and you have to read about it and see what it could be. And the game's really interesting because while sometimes it might have like a mission where it's a shootout and you got to send a bunch of cops and maybe even a SWAT unit, There's other times where you'll get a mission that's like, little Timmy is in his room upset and crying, saying he's being held there against his will. And then, you send cops out to it, and it ends up being a false alarm. And so you've just sent cops out there while there's other emergency calls coming in, and like it's really interesting. There does get to be some like picking and choosing what missions sound more important to you to send them out on. But to take it a step further, there's also a time limit for how long these little missions expire before you can send cops to them. So, if I send a cop out to Timmy's mission and it's a false alarm, if I get another call in, that might expire in 10 seconds, and there's no telling if my cops will be back in time for that mission.
Yeah, it's especially in the early going, for me at least, it was a very fun like management game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where I struggled is getting too deep in, and I was just like, I couldn't wrap my head around all the elements I had to manage, and I was just like, felt like I was falling behind, and that was when it kind of became not as fun for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and there's definitely like, I mean, there's a boatload of stuff you can do in it. And just tons of things to manage. And like I hadn't even figured out how like the investigations worked until like one of the last couple times I played. So like there's a lot to it, and learning it and figuring out how all of it works. It does take a little bit. But yeah, I'm really liking it. I think it's great so far. I do have some complaints though. Cutscenes, man. They're just now here's the thing. I've played a lot of games. I've played a lot of games with long cutscenes. I've played a lot of games with boring long cutscenes, and this is definitely one of those. The cutscenes wouldn't be so bad if I felt like more was happening, and I get why the game does it. The game tries to almost make cutscenes, to me at least, feel kind of like a radio show, where, you hear these people talking, and it shows a picture of them talking, but, the cutscenes aren't actually like movies, so it's just a picture of them talking while you hear them saying the words. And then while you're still looking at that picture, you'll hear noises like footsteps or something of them moving or doing something. And I think it's cool. The first couple cutscenes were really cool, and I was really into them. But now it's at the point where it's like you could cut out all of that like foot traffic noise, and you could cut out all of those little noises and have these cutscenes go a lot faster. But I get why they do it, and I can't really say that the cutscenes are bad or the game's bad because of it, because it is a very like stylized thing. But man, oh man, I am just getting so sick of cutscenes.
See, I don't remember. I guess I vaguely remember the cutscenes being an issue, but I think I must have just started really skipping through, or I don't remember. Is that game, does it skip line by line, or does it skip just a general one time you're back to the action?
That's a good question. I haven't really skipped them, because that's the hard part, is I really like the story and I want to know more about it.
Yeah.
But oh man, I just hate waiting through minutes of cutscenes. There's been times where I'll put my controller down, the cutscenes will start going. I'll pick up my phone, I'll go on social media or something, and I'll come back to it, and the cutscenes are still going, And man, I think that's one of the same reasons why I got so pulled out of the new Like a Dragon.
Yeah.
Just long cutscenes, and while I think the gameplay is really fun, I don't think the gameplay is fun enough to justify the cutscenes for me personally.
Yeah, I get that. I think I've probably mentioned on at least half of the episodes at this point about Like a Dragon, or Yakuza Like a Dragon. I loved that game, but that was definitely a complaint I had, was like, just, man, those cutscenes do not end.
Yeah.
It's one thing for that game because at least they're in English for me. I can focus a little better when the English voice acting is there, but especially on I assume the Like a Dragonishin is all Japanese with no English cutscene or English voice acting options.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's tough because I'm not very good at paying attention when they want me to read all of the subtitles.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Like a Dragon has an issue too, where like I just feel like there's just so much middle stuff, so much in between mission stuff that like it's really cool that they have so much, but like man, it just pulls me out of the story, and then I get sidetracked, and then I do, yeah, I mean like you said, the lack of English voices does kind of pull me out of it too, because I don't want to spend my whole gameplay reading.
That's what
And
they
that's
got books for.
yeah,
That's what they
yeah.
make books for, and I ain't gone and picked up a book in years.
You ever heard of a library? My game doesn't belong there.
I don't want to go to the library to play my video games. Sorry, go on.
But no. So yeah, that's the issue I'm running into with This Is the Police, because I really like the game, but man, it's just so much, so much, and not so much reading, but just so much waiting and listening, and I don't know. There's a lot of interactions that I feel just go on too long. Um, but also, one more positive that can be a negative to some people, but I just want to touch on this because I think it's really cool. Uh, your choices matter a shit ton in that. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe not necessarily the story choices, but the gameplay choices, like when you send cops to things, they matter so much. And I didn't realize that because I kind of figured, like, oh, the game's probably forgiving or something, and, like, I probably don't need to pay super close attention to some of this stuff. And then I hired the Mafia to do a hit on one of my guys because I found a better one. And the Mafia told me, okay, on this day at this time, we're gonna do that hit. We're gonna phone in a call, and whoever you send to it, we're gonna take down. And I was like, okay, I'll remember that. I didn't remember it, and so I sent like 3 of my best dudes over on this call, and then all of a sudden they came back with the grayed out portraits. I was like, holy shit. So yeah, no, choices matter, and like paying attention matters, and I think that's a really cool part of the game.
Can we write that I don't know if it'd be a short or if it'd be better for a TV series, but like a really corrupt sheriff, not sheriff, a really corrupt like police chief with just super bad memory.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's entirely what it was. I felt so stupid afterwards because like, oh my god, they told me the time it was gonna happen, and I still just completely looked past it.
Yep.
And yeah, it was pretty good. And then there's cool like side things that happen where like you don't always have to send people to crimes either. Sometimes you can send people to these like other calls where like there's a shooting tournament going on and they want a cop to participate, and if the cop wins they'll show him pointers, and like stuff like that is super cool because then it boosts the cop's skill and stuff. But
It's kind of funny the like cyclical nature almost because you introduced me to This Is the Police, right? You played the second game, I believe.
I played the first one a long time ago,
Okay.
but I just couldn't get into it.
Mm-hmm.
It was I was a little bit younger in my time here, and
Mm-hmm.
like I just didn't like the whole sitting through tons of reading and stuff.
Yeah.
But now that's something that like as I've gotten older I find is more fun to do. Um, and actually, I'm that way with a lot of games too. Like the whole like Divinity games and stuff. That
Mm.
never would have appealed to me even a year ago.
Right.
And now all of a sudden like I'm back into those types of things.
Mm. Yeah. It's This Is Police is definitely a cool game, like a really cool concept. The gameplay is good. The story like you said, I do think it probably could cut some of the fat off of the cutscenes and whatnot, but the story and that concept is really cool.
Yeah,
Just one I would never stick all the way through.
yeah. No, I get you.
Yeah.
I get you. What about you, Greg? What have you been playing lately?
So I wasn't expecting to bring this game this week because I didn't think I'd get enough time in the game before I was ready to talk about it for the episode. But I picked up the Resident Evil 4 remake day one, and let me tell you, it did not disappoint.
Yep.
So to kind of quickly lay down my background with Resident Evil, I've never played a Resident Evil game before Resident Evil Village. I watched a lot of the gameplay videos of Resident Evil Biohazard, like a lot of Achievement Hunter videos at the time when that game came out. That game was fascinating to me because it's just the the majority of that game took place in the mansion, and but they kept it interesting and kind of just kind of kept it being boring, just being in that one setting.
Yep.
But my stance on horror, like just horror media in general, kind of kept me away from playing any Resident Evil games. I'm not a huge horror fan. I much rather not go into something that is trying to scare me.
Yeah, absolutely.
But something enticed me to play Resident Evil Village, so I had to pick it up and give it a try. I swear it wasn't the 7-foot tall vampire lady. She had nothing to do with it.
Oh, it was.
It
was.
But I played that game, and it ended up probably being my favorite game that came out in 2021.
Yep.
Like, I loved the atmosphere. I loved the, over-the-top, just cliche story. Like, it wasn't doing anything, new and interesting. It was so cliche in so many points, but I soaked it up. Maybe it's because I don't have a lot of experience with, the tropes of horror, so it was all still kind of new to me in a way.
Yeah.
So basically, because of Village, when I heard they were remaking Resident Evil 4, it's largely talked about as one of the best video games of all time, period, I was stoked. I was ready to jump in. I wanted to try it. I've tried older versions of the game, like on the GameCube and whatnot, but the older, kind of jankier controls didn't hold up for my what I'll call my modern sensibilities.
Yep.
It just felt really not that good to play.
Yeah. Well, and okay, I know that I might get some flack for this, but listen, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, yeah, I feel like 90% of these older games probably aren't gonna hold up in the control schemes. You know what I mean? Stories might still, but man, every old game, and I love old games. I play, I'm constantly playing older games because I love them. But man, there are so many PS2 games or GameCube games where I remember them controlling great as a kid, and now I come back to them and they're just garbage.
That is the interesting kind of phenomenon. Is at the time, a lot of these games felt like they controlled really well.
Yep.
It's just interesting how we seem to have been able to continue pushing, I guess, just control. I don't know, just back-end controls, the tightness of certain stuff and what actually feels right clicking-wise, and it's just... Or maybe it's just how, over the course of time, the conventions have changed. So a lot of old games weren't created during the time where those conventions were the norm, so they just feel out of date now. I don't know. That's kind of an interesting thing to think about, actually.
Yeah, and I can tell you, from my experience, twin sticks change everything.
Mm-hmm.
When you go from, the old Metroid Prime to, the new one.
So good.
Exactly.
Night
and
and day.
Yeah, and same with this Resident Evil. I remember, and I haven't played the old one in a really long time, but if I remember right, you had to stand still to shoot your gun in that. You had to stop moving. And then, in order to do the free aim kind of thing, you had to stand still. And then I think you had to use the movement stick to aim your gun or something. And it was bad. It was ridiculous. And yeah, that kind of stuff. Oh man, that takes me out of games real fast. So, I think with twin sticks coming into play, man, having camera controls on one stick and movement on the other is just a game changer for all games, even remakes of old games. It makes them just so much better.
Yeah, so I played this game in assisted mode because, as I was kind of saying when I played the demo, still felt a little clunky.
Yep.
Assisted mode kind of helps with aiming. It's not a auto aim, but it is an assisted aim. It gets you closer and you can kind of make the fine-tune adjustments.
Yep.
Probably knock some of the health off of enemies, so it's not quite as laborious to knock down an enemy. But it just feels good. It feels so good. That gameplay is very smooth compared to the time I spent in the original Resident Evil 4. And saying as good as the controls are, they aren't perfect. And where this game really excels is that it's the same places that Resident Evil Village really got me. And it's the atmosphere, and it's the pacing. This game just lays out this spooky atmosphere that just for some reason feels so immersive. and then the way the story and the gameplay kind of like work together really serves to just further enhance how great these games are to me.
Yeah, yeah.
I think this game's an easy recommendation for anyone with mild interest. If you haven't played Resident Evil 4, you're like me, I think it's you kind of owe it to yourself to pick this one up, because I think from what I've played, I'm probably 3.5 hours in. The story is holding up to everything that anyone has ever said it would be, you know? I think even if you've played Resident Evil 4, this is a really good chance to just have another go at it if you really liked it.
I'm glad you're giving it the recommend, because I've been on the fence about getting this one, but strangely, I've actually, and like I know it's, an older game now, but I've actually really been feeling, actually going through and playing Resident Evil Village, because I've seen people play it. I've watched playthroughs of it, and it looked really, at the time it looked great, and like it looked like something I wouldn't want to play, but something I'd want to watch. And now with this new Resident Evil, it's funny because like I'm looking at it, and I think the big thing that grosses me out, I think, with this Resident Evil is I just hate third person games now.
Oh, I tell you what, I don't think I've ever. I mean, I've played like maybe what. So the top of my head, Witcher 3 comes to mind as like a third person game I've played.
Yep.
Mass Effect, I think, is third person. It doesn't really bother me, and that's just a personal preference. Obviously, is what it comes down to. But I think for some reason in this game, it really works.
Yeah. It's definitely on my list to pick up. I played through the demo a couple days ago, and I don't know, by the end of the demo, I was just kind of thinking, this doesn't really feel like something I think I'd continue playing, but at the same time, I didn't know, and I'm still kind of on the fence about it. But yeah, for some reason, Resident Evil 8 has been calling my name, so I might wait for that to go on sale or something and pick that up.
Pick it up. I really love that game. I think probably Halloween this year I'll go back and give it another play.
Yeah.
One thing
For
I want to
spooky
mention.
season?
Yeah, spooky season, of course. One thing I really want to mention is the first boss fight is I've gotten just a little bit past that boss fight.
Yep.
But that boss was really cool. I won't get too much into it for spoiler's sake or whatnot, and I don't know how it. I mean, I'm sure it's probably pretty similar to how it was in the original, but it just like the design of that boss was so cool, and this doesn't happen often, but I found myself just kind of jaw like or mouth agape a little bit, like just like, wow, what is this? Is really interesting.
Yeah, Greg, I'm gonna say a slight spoiler name here, or word here. I just want you to tell me if this is the boss, because I genuinely don't remember who the first boss is. Greg, does the word big man mean anything
Big man
to you?
means everything.
Okay, yeah.
Big man means
right.
everything.
Gotcha.
And the really cool thing, the really cool thing about that boss fight was there was something that I did earlier in the game that affected that boss fight in a way that was like mind blowing. It was like, holy, this is the game from like what, 2006? Earlier even? I don't know. And it was doing something where it tied in like a something you did earlier in the game into a boss fight when you least expected it. It was really cool.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, so I'll have to find out.
So what this game really got me thinking about was like, why do these Resident Evil games, these two that I've played to this point, why do they speak to me so deeply? They like, I'm not a horror person. They don't really tend to speak to me on that level, as far as like I don't consume everything that's horror and love it. But that being said, I think a lot of these games aren't really horror. They aren't trying to like actively scare you, because that's where I get kind of turned away from horror, is if you're trying to like jump scare me and just go for those cheap kind of scares. It's not really my vibe. I tend to, I think, from these experiences, like games that have these kind of weird atmospheres and have the kind of tense moments more than like jump scare games.
Yeah, absolutely.
Am I saying that these games are only tense or atmospheric because I play them on the easiest difficulty, so I don't feel really scared? That could be true. Like that, I won't rule that out. But furthermore, I think what Resident Evil games do is like prove the value and even the relevance of like linear games. Because I grew up in a time where like open world was the buzzword. You know,
Yep.
you'd hear open world, and your ears would perk up a little bit. You know.
I still feel like open world is the buzzword.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it didn't necessarily mean that the game was going to be good if it was open world, but I think you felt like that meant it was modern. You know, because open world was pushing what a video game should be as far as like immersion.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think playing these like very linear Resident Evil experiences are just cool for me because they are so linear and polished that it really does prove the value of the linear game design. I think there's something to be said about like they can legitimately polish this game in every corner because they know that you're going to see the things that they are putting the polish into. You know, they don't have to put polish into an open world game can polish certain parts and then like only 50% or less of the player base even sees it because it's open world.
Right. Well, and I think like open world games. I think that open world games even can have a point where they're too open. And like a game that everybody tells me has only gotten better since launch. I keep going back to it, and then it still feels the same. No Man's Sky. And I feel that way because I keep coming back to it, and like, yeah, I'm sure that they've added a billion things since launch, but the game's almost too open now, where I feel like because these are all updates that came later, I don't feel like I've ever really had like good instruction on how to utilize these things or even find some of these things. Like I find myself looking up things on the internet more than like trying to search in like the game guides or anything because there's just nothing about it. No Man's Sky I think is almost too open world with some of the things you can do in it, and like it makes finding certain things really challenging. And yeah,
I think over time I think they got better with early game kind of scaffolding of things to do and trying to walk you through some of it.
yep.
But I don't think it was I don't think they're because the game is so big and there's so much to it. I still don't think they could possibly provide an adequate like tutorial that's short enough to be, you know, the length you want a tutorial to be and put you into that game. Put you in a good position to go off in that game and then take it from there, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to hit on one last thing about Resident Evil 4. Like I said, I really highly recommend this game. If you think if it's something that's mildly interested you at all, I think Capcom did a really good job with this remake. But the one thing I really like is the like case management in this game, like the inventory management. I know that in some of the old games that's not super well liked, but I think it's because I might have gotten like a pre-order bigger suitcase. But I love just occasionally going in and organizing my grenades with my grenades and my ammo with my ammo and my healing stuff with my healing stuff and then just going back on my way.
Yeah.
Like he just sits down on a log and opens the briefcase and just rearranges stuff and then goes back about his business.
Yeah, you gotta have that calming moment before you go face more nightmares.
Yeah, Leon's just like, you know what, that was awful. Let me just sit here and do a little inventory management real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, Resident Evil 4 Remake, very good game.
Greg, you know, we rate games on a scale of 1 to 10 Gregs. How many Gregs are you giving it?
Caleb, now this is getting into like a little bit of a psycho analysis of me. At what do I value a Greg?
Not very high.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't think 10 Gregs is enough for this game. I think there's... I would give this 1,003 Gregs, actually, I think.
Nice.
Yeah, but if we're going based on Caleb's, it's only one Caleb.
It's only one. I'm a treasure, baby.
Caleb, you have a second topic for me, I'd assume?
Yeah, so I've got like half of one because here's the thing. I've played it, but this was actually a very recent, like within a day or two, that I bought this and have started playing it. And it was an impulse buy too. All right, I've read no reviews about this. I know nothing about the game. I went into it 100% blind, just looking at the store page, and I was both pleasantly surprised and extremely disappointed. But the game I got was Deceive Inc.
Pardon me?
Have you heard of that? Deceive Inc.
No,
Deceive Incorporated.
I've not heard of this game.
Okay. It's a multiplayer spy game. The the best way I can describe it is it's kind of like, and this is a loose description here, all right? It's really nothing like this game, but this is what comes to mind. It's kind of like if you took Payday and you put two teams going against each other to get into the vault. It's kind of that, but also there's no team. So it's you take a bunch of players and you pit them against each other, and they're all trying to get into this vault and take this precious whatever's in the vault. And then you take it and you get to an extraction point and you win the game. But all the while, you need disguises and different like little data pads that you hack into to get these little data points. And this is definitely not what they're called, but you use these little data points to open up different doors and areas around the map, and every door has a specific number of data points it needs. So the whole early point of the game is you start off in a disguise. Every round you start off in a disguise, and you have to go around the map and collect these data points. All the while, other players are doing the exact same thing. And remember, it's a free-for-all, so if you see an NPC that kind of moves a little funny and you think that might be a player, you can just start opening fire on them. And if you do that, it takes you out of your disguise, and if you hit them, it takes them out of their disguise too. And then, then it's known that you two are players at that moment. Now, where the game gets me is it has like each round, because you play it like a round of Call of Duty, right? It's a game mode, so there's a round, and then when that round's over, you do a new one. It's not a continuous thing. So for each round, there's like a permadeath mechanic, where if you get killed in that round, you're done for that whole round. It's one of those types of games, which really gets me in a bad way. I hate those types of games because I'm just bad at them. But yeah, so that's kind of the premise of the game. You're competing with these other players, using disguises and using gadgets and different spy things to get into a vault, and then you get the goods from the vault, and then you extract out of there. And all the while there's other players doing other things. There's different spies you can play as, so each spy has their own equipment and like different things they specialize in. And there's different maps where, yeah, it's just fun. But some of my favorite features that I feel like should be in every game like this, when you're disguised, it's really cool. Your NPC that you're disguised as only faces whatever way you're moving. So it lets you look around, move your camera all around, but to other players, it looks like that NPC is just going straight and not looking around, which is a super cool mechanic, and it adds so much to the stealth part. And like, it's really hard to spot when an NPC is actually a player, because when they're looking all around, you only see them moving in a direction. So like, you actually have to watch out more for like the patterns of movement and in specific ways that NPCs go about things. But it's really cool, and it has those like the Hitman features where like when you're in a certain disguise, you can blend in by doing a task. Like you can, if you're a guard, there'll be like a little highlight of a guard that you can go walk up to and hold a button to blend in, and then your character will just kind of assume that position and like stand next to that door as a guard. And once again, you'll be able to move your camera all around, and nobody will know that it's you. And it's super handy for like getting into some of those locked doors, because like I said, you collect these data points, right? So for every door, there's a number of data points you need. And when you unlock a door, it takes a second. There's a little loading bar where you send those data points to that door to unlock it. It doesn't show you doing that, though, to other players. So, you really have to watch for, like, are they standing by a door when it opens? If that's the case, then that NPC is probably a player. But those blend-in features make it even harder to distinguish because guards sometimes just post up by doors. So it could be a player, it could be an NPC. And if you shoot an NPC, all of the guards that aren't players will start attacking you and stuff. So there is an incentive to not just go guns blazing every round.
This is interesting. It sounds like some of the greats of deception games, you know, like Spy Party or like Prop Hunt or any of those. Among Us.
Yeah. Among Us? Yeah, absolutely. It is a cool game. My biggest complaint with it is just the fact that it's got the permadeath for each round.
Mm-hmm.
Because God, I'm just so bad at that. And there's a lot to it though. I'm still kind of figuring the game out, and I haven't played it super long. I've done probably 3 or 4 rounds now, online rounds with other players, and the tutorial does a pretty good job of like teaching you how to play, but it doesn't do a good job of teaching you like these are what other players are going to look like, and like all of that stuff. Learning how you might find another player.
Right.
It doesn't do a great job showing you that in the tutorials, so there is definitely a little learning curve that I'm going through right now.
Interesting. Now, what platform did you get this on?
I picked this up for PS5.
Gotcha.
I believe it's a PS4 game too.
Gotcha.
And yeah, if your thing is these kind of like extraction games, not so much like Tarkov, but a much simpler form of that. If that seems like your kind of thing, I recommend it. It's pretty fun. There is a little bit of a learning curve with it, but I do enjoy it.
I'd be interested to look into it and see if there's any play between the cross-gen.
Yeah,
because I don't know the price point or anything, but it sounds like it might be a fun time to try and get together in.
Yeah, I do believe there is crossplay. Yep, I believe I've seen the option for it.
Interesting. I might have to have you send me some information following the episode and see if we can get ourselves in this game.
I definitely will. One of my favorite things about it too is it's not a huge game either. You don't have to worry about like the 80 gigabyte downloads or anything. I think this was like maybe at most like a 20 gigabyte game, which you gotta love those small downloads.
Dude, it doesn't even matter to me anymore since I've gotten into this new apartment and gotten my internet speeds that are better than the like just 10 megabytes per second that I was getting in Kingfield.
Yep.
Oh my word, I am living the dream. I'm like, well, it doesn't even matter the size. It'll be done in 2 hours tops.
Yep, that's fair. I'm definitely feeling that with our internet. I couldn't tell you how much of a relief it was when we got our internet, and then the day we got it, Atomic Heart finished downloading before that anyways, so.
And you could finally jump in and not really want to play that one.
I know, I still haven't played it. I don't know what's going on, man. I gotta get at that one soon.
Well, hopefully the Atomic Heart bug itches. I got so confused trying to say that. It wasn't even worth saying. I was just like,
Yeah. So Greg, lay your second game on me. What you got?
Caleb, I'm so glad you asked. I don't have a game. I've got a topic, an important topic.
Okay.
So in the haze of a Friday afternoon, Friday at the end of the day on the end of the week, everyone's kind of zoned out, ready to go home and crack a cold one.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Plant of Polygon.com tried to slip some important news past us, Caleb.
Okay.
But he's gonna have to wake up earlier than that to bamboozle me.
Takes more than a slippery nougat to foil me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So the article in question is entitled, "What Happens
Does
If
Bruno Mars?"
No, Caleb, that one's been out for a while now.
Oh, of course, my bad.
What happens if Kirby swallows a hot man? His directors give answers.
He turns into me, I think.
So,
I knew Nintendo needed that copy of my headshot for some reason.
I knew there was a reason they asked me to send just full body pics. The contents of this article, they really answer some of man's longest held questions.
Okay.
So it starts with Plant asking HAL Laboratories directors if Kirby could ever fall in love, to which we find out that Kirby's actually asexual.
Okay.
He's been described by Shinya Kumazaki, apologize, name butchering, as a neutral character. So I'm sorry to disappoint everyone who just had their fan fictions ruined.
Yep.
Plant then goes dark. He goes really dark here, asking, like, what's inside Kirby if you, like, cut him in half, cut Kirby in half.
Okay.
A little Dexter-esque question there from Chris Plant at Polygon.com.
Yeah.
But the answer was dreams. He's filled with dreams.
And beans. It's just beans.
So at least someone was able to kind of lighten the tone after Chris Plant accidentally confessed his deep desire to go Buffalo Bill on Kirby.
Yeah.
Next question is one I think we've all kind of thought at some point. I think it's kind of a very baseline question that once you see Kirby, it's what happens if Kirby swallows another Kirby? You can't tell me you haven't thought about that.
Yeah, in Smash Bros. It does nothing.
Well, and the answer essentially boils down to that does nothing because Kirby copies powers, so Kirby can't copy another Kirby's Kirby powers. Yawn. I want to know, Caleb.
Yeah.
What happens in your head canon when Kirby copies another Kirby?
It doubles the power of his suck.
No! Phrasing, please. Can we get another take on that?
No, that's it. No, you got it.
No,
you got it.
Can we get a take 2 on that, please? Oh my gosh. Okay. I expected a lot of different answers might come after I asked that question. I should have expected that one.
Yeah.
Didn't. So we get back into Chris Plant's dark machinations here. He asks what happens to the life form when Kirby swallows it, you know?
Well, it depends. Has his suck been doubled yet?
Nope. Don't worry, though. That thing doesn't die. But they did say that Kirby's stomach is somewhat like a black hole that, like, just spits the living thing out somewhere else. You know, it's not, doesn't say where that gets spit out, just that it's somewhere else, which sounds terribly inconvenient.
No, that makes sense. I've always felt like when Kirby opened up his mouth, it wasn't his voice, but instead the screams of the damned.
The screams. So. Yeah, the screams of no. I got nothing. We'll cut that right out. No, now we got to keep it in because I referenced it.
Take 2.
Take 2 and reset. Wait, give
Double
me 5
suck?
minutes to go right. Double suck. Take 2. Double suck. Right. Where are we here? Okay, now we get into the good stuff. It's what you came here asking. What happens if Kirby swallows a hot man? Now this is where things just got weird. Because the response from the directors was Kirby is already max sexy.
That's true. That's true.
I
I tell you what.
I'm kidding.
Double suck or not. They're right.
What they actually said was much less exciting. The developers of the kids game did not want to comment on a sexy Kirby.
Yeah, that's fair, and that's kind of a weird fucking question to ask.
They basically just said that he'd get muscles, which is like its own kind of subcategory on Rule 34 and whatnot.
Okay. Yeah. Did they just say veiny and leave it at that? Is that what they said?
No. All right, I'm going to wrap this bit up quick because I don't even like the territory we've been in here for a while. I don't really want to attach my name to this. The whole article will be in the description, a link to it in this week's podcast. If you want to check it out, it was a fun time. You know, I enjoyed reading it and kind of watching these developers dodge Chris Plant's weird questions.
Yeah, that's a super weird question. I think the next question is, when is he going to therapy?
Probably never.
Well,
anyway,
you know what they say, double the suck, double the demons.
Nope, I'm gonna just try and act like you never said that.
All right,
Caleb. For people that want to submit their muscle Kirby pictures, they can send those to us.
Yes, please send those to us. If you got any Kirby feet pictures, I think Polygon wants those. So.
But make sure to also CC Wendy's.
Yes, please do. They need to know about everything that happens.
Mm-hmm.
It's a law, really.
Yeah.
It's legal stuff.
Yeah. It's weird Wendy's got you on the base floor of just law, period.
Yeah.
Anyway, Caleb.
Yeah.
We've done another one.
We've done another one. All right.
Caleb, call them to action, would you?
Call. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Listen, let's get real for a second, all right? I don't like saying this. I don't feel like I need to.
It brings me pain.
You know? It brings me pain. It brings me just the worst feelings. But listen, there's a little button that you got to push. Now, what that button might be could be anything. It could be a little duck. It could be a thumbs up. Might be a dog. Might be a follow. I don't know. That's up to you. But, man, just push that button. Just push that. If there's one thing that Wendy's has emailed us nonstop about, it's that you guys need to just push that button. Push the button. Or get a cease and desist from Wendy's.
We won't be free of Wendy's wrath until you push that button.
We are imprisoned, and we need that sweet release of that button.
Oh my god, Caleb. Phrasing, bud. Anyway.
Push that button and get double the size.
Caleb, it's been a pleasure. Well, actually, I'm not sure it has been, but I'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, it's been a time. We'll see all of you lovely people next time. Push those buttons and make sure you tune in next week for more Kirby toes.
Nope. Nope. Goodbye.
We'll cut that right out of there. Right out of there. Make sure you tune in next week for some more Kirby toes. Damn it! Wait, hang on. We'll cut that out of there too.
Oh, this is the worst ending we've ever done. Oh my god. Until next week, play some games.
Until next week, play some games. Play some games for us. Play some games. Not Kirby toes. Don't play with those.
Again. Goodbye, everyone.
Play some games. Goodbye.